Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. I hope you're having a good time and you can hear me and you can see me. And let me know in the chat if it's working. Hello. Test. Hello, test. All right, I know at least that my chat went through. Let's see if this does. Yep. It's just me. That's just why. Yes, Brandon said yes. Welcome, Brandon. Everything is working. Great. How are you guys doing tonight? I have an idea of what we can look at it. I was thinking, so I've started this new job at h2o, which is a company that hires a lot of Kaggle grandmasters and just great company overall. But part of what they've been doing, and I've been trying to get up to speed with, is learning about large language models. Now, I have to admit, I'm no expert in that. Jackie Chan, welcome to the chat. How's it going? I'm not necessarily an expert in large language models, but we're going to learn together, okay? How do you guys feel about that? We are going to learn about it together, especially since large language models have sort of taken over the world as of late. Especially with a website you guys know called ChatGPT. Thanks, Sheesh. I appreciate that. So we've all been to ChatGPT and we've used it, and it's great. You know, it's really surprised a lot of us when it first came out of what it was able to do and all that stuff. Oh, I can hear myself repeated in the background. They're mute. But what if we wanted to run something like ChatGPT offline? What are our options? And what would the results be compared to ChatGPT? And could it even be better? These are all questions I'm asking that I don't know the answers to. Yes, excited to embark on the journey. Yes, Habib, welcome to the chat. Glad you're excited. So I have ChatGPT Plus because I'm really cool. But I was looking around. So H2O has created, go to GitHub here, and we look for H2O GPT. This is H2O's open source, fully open source GPT model. Now I'm going to put this in the chat, and I know there's some alternatives. We'll look at those too briefly. But if you go to this, it's a very active GitHub repository. It's completely open source. It's completely private. And you can use it to link to your own data, which is the part that I think is pretty cool. The fact that it has an Apache 2.0 license means that it's, you know, free for commercial use. Commercial use checkmark. Modification checkmark. So this is like legit open source software that's being created and actively maintained. Look, the last push was 3 hours ago. And I'm trying to get it working locally. There are a few different options of how to install it locally, and I'm going to show you what I've done so far. So all I've done here, and the thing is, I think on my local machine, I don't have a big enough GPU to really run the GPU version of some of the nicer models. So this is what I know. You guys in chat can correct me if I'm wrong. There are a few different open source, like foundational large language models to choose from. And most of these chatbot models, these open source ones, are built off of those because you don't necessarily want to start from scratch when you're fine tuning a large language model. You want to take, you know, a model that knows how to speak English that has been trained on most of the internet for months on multiple GPUs. And then you want to fine tune it so that it's good for your task, whatever that is. And mostly that's question and answering. So let's do some, for my knowledge, let's learn a little bit about these models. So there is Llama, right? Not just like the normal llama. There's a llama. That's a llama. That's just like a normal llama. That's not what we're trying to find. Look at this. Look at this. Google trying to get all fancy with us with the new AI powered results. But let's do llama model. This was created by Meta. Hello, Icarius. Welcome to the channel and to the chat. So people, feel free to interject here, and I'm trying to learn as we go. So love your content. Any advice how to start simple ML project? I have a few videos on them. It really depends on what data source you think is the most interesting, DJ. DJ, that's a great question. I'd say start with the data source or data set that you think is interesting. And then ask yourself a question and try to see how you can solve it with that data. Okay, as part of so Meta released this Llama model, right? They released a paper with it, and I think it was or it was like you had to request it specifically, but then it became open source, or at least it's on Hugging Face. Like you could download this foundational large language model off of Hugging Face, and they're usually released in different sizes. This is sort of like the other models that we've used off of Hugging Face, where there's a small, a medium, and a large. So they have different versions ranging from 7 billion parameters to 65. My understanding is that a large language model like ChatGPT, especially GPT-4, is like hundreds of billions of parameters. So on a whole different scale than this. But parameters is not the most important thing, especially if you want it to be fast locally. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to have the most verbose responses. There are so many large language models. I know it's driving me insane. I'm trying to learn about it, and every time I learn about something, Icarius, another one comes. And did I call you Icarius? It's Icarus, right? All right, so Llama is one of the foundational models, and then there's also, and that's released by Meta. We know Meta, Facebook, that AI group. And then there's also Falcon large language model. It's made by this company, the Technology Innovation Institute, has open source LLM for research. So this is also on Hugging Face. They have a 40 billion parameter model, and I believe a 7 billion. Yeah. So a 7 billion parameter and a 40 billion. The thing is, I think the 7 billion parameter model was trained on more data than the 40. So in some ways, the 7 performs better. Yeah, so look at this. Falcon 40B. I can't get this big enough so that works well. Was trained on 40 billion parameters, trained on 1,000 billion tokens. But the 7B model was trained on 1.5 that many, so 150% of that from the myth. Yep, it's a second Icarus. Icarus flying too close to the sun. Is that it? GPT is 3 is 175 billion. Got 4 not known. Yeah. Okay. So 4 is question mark. Same thing with Bard. I was wondering if it was possible to fine tune large language model for a specific task, like to tell if the text is created by a human or not. Yeah, so that's a big area of research right now, right? So you have these foundational models like Falcon and Llama. And are there any others? Someone tell me if there's other ones that I should be bringing up. But those are the big ones that I've seen. Like Llama was just, or Falcon was just released somewhat recently. And these are completely open source from in the sense that like the complete model weights are there for you to use. They're like many, many gigabytes when you try to load them locally, but they are free to use. Now to fine tune it, there are a bunch of different things out there that you can use. But of course I work for H2O, and this is created by some of the people that I believe to be the absolute leaders and experts in this field. And they have created this LLM Studio, which lets you fine tune the models. The hard thing for me is to find like the best use case for this other than question answering that we already have. Like so what they've done with this, but that's another thing. We'll try to figure out some use cases for this. The main use case for using LLM Studio is they're using it to fine tune these models like Falcon to be more of chat bots, and they're using this Open Assistant data set. So this Open Assistant data set, no. So I'm basically repeating to you guys everything I think I know, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'll try to use them to classify domain names. But the thing is, you need to have a bunch of label data set. So the area where I think this is going to be big is if you are a company that has a bunch of data that's already in question answer format, then you could format or you could fine tune a model to try to answer those questions better. I have the data set. Icarus, show me it. Let's try it. Am I the only one who's still confused about the attention mechanisms of transformers? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to get into it. But it is very confusing. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Main use cases to have a LLM you can run on your own server. Exactly. That's why we're looking into these. So you could take Falcon and you try to run it on its own, but it's kind of like a very bland, like it's not trained to answer a question well. It's trained to just know or to guess what the next word should be in a sentence. So actually, let's see if I can find this. Here he is. Philip tweeted this about fine-tuning models for stylistic changes. So this is something I've learned in the last week or so. Why isn't this turning on? Oh, I don't have it on. So this changing or the fine-tuning of these big models. Yo, are you doing custom indices on LLMs? No. What happened? Just started watching. We're trying. What's happening is we're trying to understand. I'm just talking through large language models, what I know about them in terms of open source right now, and then we're gonna get into comparing some of the things that are out there that you could install on your local machine and test out. Granted, I'm still in the process of learning about this stuff, but we're learning together. So we have this, h2o does have this GitHub repo with LLM Studio, which lets you have a user interface, and I've tested this out. It's pretty cool, where you basically provide it a bunch of question and answers or prompts and responses, and then you can fine tune the model like Falcon. Remember how we talked about Falcon? To answer your questions in a specific way or type of responses, or like fine tune it to respond in a certain type of way. So I think this tweet kind of explains it better than I can. Fine-tuning LLMs is mostly about stylistic changes, not about changing the fundamental capabilities of the model. When fine-tuning, we make the model learn to properly reply to prompts, when to stop generating new tokens, and the style of replies. So I didn't realize this. It's very different than the fine-tuning of something like, or I guess it's not that different, but if you think about something like Stable Diffusion, where people have fine-tuned those type of models to do things like make the images look more like anime or more like the Simpsons characters or whatever type of fine-tuning that they have done on top of those foundational Stable Diffusion models, changes the style. But in large language models, when we fine tune it, it's almost like changing how it speaks, but not the knowledge that it knows. That's my understanding as of now. Here's a small example of this. Comparing the output of Falcon 7B. Remember, we're talking about Falcon model, 7 billion parameters. Foundation model has a fine-tuned version. One can see that the foundation model has the fundamental capabilities, but it lacks good understanding of the verbosity and structure needed. It also does not know when to stop. It will just continue onwards, generating more token at a time. That's interesting. So these foundational models, they're like that guy at a party who won't stop talking, who doesn't know when it's appropriate to just let someone else speak for a second. You guys know what I'm talking about. But that's what the foundational model is, because it knows how to speak and it knows how to guess what word might be next. But it doesn't even know when to stop, right? So a fine-tuned model gives exactly what we would expect, a well-structured list of items. Okay, so let's look at this example. The prompt here is, what are the top 3 most famous dishes of Austria? So this is the base Falcon model. The top 3, that's a weird way to phrase it. The top 3 most famous Austrian dishes are Wiener Schnitzel, Tafelitz, and Goulash. What's the most popular food in Austria? And then it just keeps on talking. What is the national dish of Austria? What is the most popular food in Austria? Austria's most popular. This is kind of like when you're using text complete and you just keep on hitting the next word and then it never ends. It just makes a nonsense. So instead of man explaining, we have a new AI term explaining. Yeah, that's right. Shorts from in Barraquanella. Hey Rob, take a look at this repo. There are data sets for fine tune them. Ooh, I like this. LLM Data Hub. Awesome data sets for LLM trading. We are definitely going to take a look at this. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. Maybe not tonight, but at some point. Hopefully they're all open source, but Ultra Chat. Yes, I can make a tutorial with this. Thank you. I'm going to save this. How do I save this? I'll just not close that tab. Okay, so this is the model below it is the one that H2O has fine-tuned on the OAssist dataset. Oh, I didn't talk about that dataset enough. Here's the dataset on Hugging Face. Star the repo. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Star the repo. What a dummy I am. Where's the star button? Isn't it usually up here? Is this in the way? It wasn't on the base one. Okay, start it. Start it. Okay, so the one that is fine-tuned knows when to stop. Here are the top 3 most famous dishes of Austria: Wiener Schnitzel, and then I guess it changes the third one, but then it knows when to stop. It makes them into a list of 3, and then it stops talking. It's like, thank you. So yeah, so I think the way that these model names are organized, how H2O is organizing them, is H2O GPT is the name of this model. GM, I'm not sure. OASST1 is the Open Assistant data set that it was trained on. And that's this data set on Hugging Face. It's basically a large data set with good answers to questions. So let's look at some examples in this data set. Where's the question? Where's the prompt? So now explain it to a dog. Oh, this also has links like parents and labels, has toxicity. Okay, so some of them are have prompts and some of them have responses. So we would have to link those up, and I'm not going to do that right now. It has 84,000 rows, so it's a lot of prompts and responses. But because it was trained on that and fine-tuned on it, it can answer in a more formulaic way. And if you're like me and you've used ChatGPT a good amount, you probably have noticed that it has sort of a formulaic way of that it responds to a lot of questions. Like if I ask it, what habits should I practice to get better sleep? Like, it usually starts with this. And there's usually at the end this kind of disclaimer. Have you guys noticed this? Remember, developing these take time, be patient, give yourself. I guess this isn't like the disclaimer I'm used to seeing. Some of them say, if your question is at all controversial, it'll say something like, your results may vary, or you need to consult with a doctor, things like that, right? So those are things that are tuned into this model on top of something like GPT-4. Now, we were talking about open versions of these because we want to be able to run these locally and not send all of our information up to OpenAI and GPT and just be throwing it up there. So what are our options for the open source ones? And we talked about Falcon and we talked about Llama and the fine-tuned version of Falcon that's for question answering. Now on h2o GPTs, where is that? Here. GitHub repo. Which I'm going to put here again. And you could star this one if you haven't already. They have examples of how you could run this locally. All I really did was, first thing I did was I created I created this h2o GPT conda environment. And if I look at which Python it hits, it's version 3.10 of Python. And then they have a requirements.txt that I ran pip install requirements. And I think all of this should be installed, so I'll let that run. But they also have directions on how to do it. So cd into the directory, pip install, and then I guess it's changing versions that I have installed here. And then I'm going to run this local version. So there's a GPU version. So we could use this OAssist model, the same one that like the h2o trained locally, and it would respond just like that answers that we were looking at before. Have you looked at Orca? Yeah, so Orca, I don't think is completely open sourced. But Orca, yeah, this is a different one. Oh, maybe this is it. Well, the generated dataset and model. Yeah, see, they don't provide the actual model. But Orca was released, I think, by Microsoft, which is interesting because Microsoft owns a good portion of OpenAI, but they're kind of like trying in-house to make as good of a model as they can. I mentioned Orca to me. Oh, you did, MMD. You're right. I forgot you mentioned that a while back. But I wouldn't. This isn't open source yet, right? You can't go on Hugging Face and download the model weights. So we're not including that in the conversation yet. All right. So I created this repo. It doesn't like that. And then I could go in here, and if I had a bigger GPU, oh, this is the local GPT. I don't know if we're going to have time for this, but I was going to try out some alternatives too. There's local GPT, and there is also private GPT. These are like the two competitors or the alternatives to h2o GPT that are pretty popular. But when I'm looking at their code, it's just much more basic than what h2o has put together. Of course, I'm a little bit biased in saying this, but the h2o models look like they actually have test cases. They've written tests. Like just good software development practices. Some models, example, performed better on different tasks. Oh, h2o.ai includes that. Includes what, Admiral? GPT for all. Yeah, so these are sort of on top of the models like GPT for all. Yeah, so what is GPT for all in all this? Is that on Hugging Face? GPL license chatbot trained over a massive. So this is GPL license. It's not Apache 2.0. I don't really know the differences between licenses. But yeah, you can run on h2o this local version of GPT for all, which runs well on the CPU. So when I try to run this on the GPU, it wouldn't work. When I tried running this on CPU. Using the Llama model, it won't work because I haven't downloaded the weights. But let's do GPT for all. Underscore Llama. All right, so now it's downloading this. But while this downloads, shoot, it's making me log in. Hold on a second. Man, why is my chat all messed up? Come on, restream. The right language model for CPU. I can't. Now my chat is gone. Look, it doesn't want me to chat. All right, I'll just have to read chat from the actual stream itself. 2 Robs on my screen. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm taking over all your screens. So it's downloading this base model, but the nice thing is that we can see what the model looks like without actually having to download it, because they do have these links. So these are hosted instances of Llama 65 billion tokens, and then 2 for the Falcon 40 billion tokens. So this, if you go to gpt.h2o.ai, and I wish I could put this in the chat. Let's put this in this chat. And I'm going to go to YouTube. There. Okay, so now everyone should have access to it. You can go here and you can test out the Falcon 40B model. So we asked ChatGPT earlier about how habits for getting better sleep. Let's see how this completely open source version fine-tuned model works. Should we put on the dark theme? What do you guys think? I think it's fine like this. Okay, so let's ask it the same question. What habits should I practice for better sleep? And submit this. And it's running on a server that I don't think is super fast. But you can see some commonalities in the response. Establish a regular sleep schedule. Right? And it's kind of slow. There is this other... GPT GM. There's this other version you can go to, which I believe is public. That is a little bit faster. Orca will be open sourced in the next few months. Yeah, so all this stuff is just going to get even better. Yes, dark theme. Oh, you don't like this? All right. It's kind of freaking out at my dark theme, but so you can see the results like make sense, right? Keep yourself cool. Make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool. You create relaxing bedtime routine. What does it say? Yeah, bedtime routine. It's like the same stuff, and it answers it well in a chat bot type of way. And you could just have this running locally on your local machine. Now it is a little bit slower on this. The h2o GM version here, I'm going to actually turn the dark theme off just so we can see. And it's a lot faster. So let's ask this. I think it's using, the 7 billion parameter model. So it's a smaller model, but I think it's worth it for the speed, especially for stuff like this. So we can go here. What habits should I practice for better sleep? So this is pretty quick, right? The response is pretty quick, and it's the same model that you could have running locally. So I can't tell that big of a difference between this 40 billion and 7 billion response. In fact, I've heard some people say in many situations the 7 billion works better than the 40 billion. All right. So that's pretty cool. And imagine this, like, you work for a company and you can't have access to the internet, but you are allowed to bring in outside models and run them in like an isolated environment. This works great. Or if you're working on something that you don't want the whole world to know, or you don't want to be sent to OpenAI and stored in their database, you can use this locally, right? And it could be fine-tuned to answer some tasks that you want to. I wish I could read the chats better, man. Why does this hate me so much? Let's see if I can do it here. Yeah, this just hates me. Okay. So, pretty good results, but there's more. So if we're running this locally, and this is still downloading. Okay, so this is running locally. Now, this is running the GPT for all Llama version. I don't know if this is going to work because I haven't actually tested this out, but this is running GPT for all Llama on my CPU. Let's see if it responds. I'm going to have to test this out with a bigger GPU. The cool thing is that you can actually add external data sources. I think this is going to take forever because it's running on my CPU. Let's do an h2o on this. Okay. So it did work, but it's pretty slow, and it's using this GPT for all Llama model when I'm running it locally. Wow. At this whole time, your name actually isn't Rob. Who said that? Who said that? All right, I'm going to load up the Twitch chat here. Where's the chat? Okay, so at least I'll have the Twitch chat here. Well, that's your whole name isn't actually Robert. Why does this hate me so much? Yeah. Rob for short, Robert. Yes, that's my name. What's the best project that connects ChatGPT to the internet? I don't know. I know they have some plugins that they released, but we're looking at how you can get it. What does it mean for stuffs like these? I don't know what that means. Swapper. You're going to have to... how do I make it not answer in Spanish? I don't know. It didn't answer in Spanish to me. Hey, Rob, are you liking working at h2o.ai? Yes, I am. I'm still getting my feet wet, but yeah. All right, so this is running locally. Let's ask it that and see how it burns up my CPU. If I had a bigger GPU, I should be able to run this Falcon 7B locally, but my local GPU sucks. So what happens should I practice to get better sleep? Has 0 external sources. And we'll let that run. See if it's running all my CPU. I know that I've gotten this working on a MacBook, and it works pretty well. One thing I noticed too, and this might just be a bug, but it slowly loads, at least in this version locally, it loads the response here in the text in my terminal, but not here in the response on the web UI. So, but you can see that it's answering the question. And it's not as detailed as the other question we asked. Okay, so now here's the question. What if we want to add in new data to this mix? What if we want to see like, right, Chrome flags for built-in dark mode? I can turn on dark mode like this, right? Yeah, I can turn on dark mode like this if I wanted to. So this does have like this search web version, which is experimental. But on here, I want to try the Llama h2o. Let's do the Falcon 40B model, actually. Falcon.h2o. I'm going to turn off this dark mode. It's just too weird for me. And we're going to try to add in some external data sets. So I was looking at this before. Let's reload ChatGPT and let's ask it, what is the fastest roller coaster in how do you spell Pennsylvania? Make sure I spell this right. What's the fastest roller coaster in Pennsylvania? And it's going to answer that its knowledge is cut off by September 2021. The fastest roller coaster in Pennsylvania is Sky Rush at Hershey Park. And then if I go over to h2o GPT on Falcon 40B and I ask it same question, it's saying is Steel Force at Dorney Park. So I think this is completely wrong because Steel Force, if we look on Wikipedia, it's saying the maximum speed is 75 miles per hour. But if I look up, that's actually why I had this tab up. Top 10 roller coasters in PA. This one says Phantom's Revenge is the fastest in Pennsylvania. So if we look up this, when was it created? Trust me, there's a point to this that I'm going to get to. So this speed, top speed is 85 miles per hour. And I don't think either of them answered that that was the coaster that was the fastest. So what if I was to take this website and feed it into this model so that it could use that when trying to answer? That's what all these other tabs are for. So if we go to data source, we could just upload a file. Like if we had a file to upload, we could drop it in here. Or we can take the URL and just throw it in here. And what it's doing, my understanding, is that it's taking this data, it's chunking it and putting it into a vector database that then the chatbot can reference. So now it's added this reference to our model's data source. And if I ask it the same question again, this is the part that I think is pretty cool if it works. Okay, so it doesn't work. Let's ask it again. Stop. What's the fastest roller coaster? Tell me. Maybe it's getting hit up because all of us are using it. The fastest roller coaster in Pennsylvania is Phantom's Revenge. That's what this one said it is, right? So now that we fed it in this website, it knows the correct answer because it was able to look it up in that file. And this is the other cool thing, is it then will link you to the sources. So we could load in all of our personal data onto here if we're running it locally, not worry about anyone else seeing that data or being able to access it. And we can search it using a chat prompt, which is kind of cool. What do you guys think? That's nice. I'm using LangChain to do that. Yeah, so this is kind of, it's based on LangChain, right? So I think it uses LangChain in the background. I think a lot of these do, like h2o does. This private GBT also uses LangChain. But it's like for the average user that doesn't want to write the code for it, they'd be able to access it with this user interface. And I thought it was pretty cool when I tested this out that it actually worked. It found this and then it was able to reference more information about Phantom's Revenge. Like the actual speed from this, I believe, comes from this URL, right? Like it doesn't say that Phantom's Revenge is, it doesn't say it in this type of language. It's not just copy pasting it. It's actually responding using that data from the file that we linked. As for fine tuning and entry approach that I came across is QLoRa approach. Yeah, so I wasn't planning on getting into it, but we can. Oh, by the way, this bedtime question that we asked it, this is the response that it gives us using the GPT for all Llama on my CPU locally. So it looks like it's almost referencing that question somewhere in its training data because it's saying conversation. In July 15th, I'm going to do a presentation about how to build a ChatGPT specialist in your data text using LangChain and open source LLMs. Nice, Mr. Gabriel. That's awesome. Link it to me. Don't mean to complain, but my internet is so slow, the model is going to take 2 hours to download. 2 hours isn't long. My daughter, she downloaded Sims on my Xbox today. Maybe it was yesterday. And it took like 4 hours to download. But once you download this model, like you got it on your computer, you can use it as much as you want, right? Okay, someone was talking about QLoRa. So let's go into this LLM Studio and look at what the options are for this. So I believe LLM Studio has QLoRa already in it. I guess it already has LoRa. I don't know that. Can you tell me what the difference is between LoRa and QLoRa? 20 megabits per second on a good day. That's not too bad. 20 megabits is better than we had back in the day with dial-up internet. So let me load up LLM Studio and show you what options it does have. Yeah, I think I was using it as a Docker. Using the Docker version. The nice thing about the Dockerized version of this is you don't have to do any of the setup. It's just all there for you to use. And then it runs on this local host port 1010. Let me make sure I turn this off. It's dark mode. So basically what you do for this, with this, is you load in your base model. Like if you have that Falcon 70B, or if you wanted to take the h2o GPT pre-trained model and train it more on your data set, all you need is a data set with a CSV of prompts and response. And then you can create this experiment with that data set, and it gives you all these options, most of which, like this is LoRa, you can turn it on or off. You can change the alpha and dropout, like all this fine tuning you could do, and you can grade how well it's doing with a bunch of different metrics. I think if you put in your GPT or your OpenAI key, you can actually score it against what GPT thinks is better. I can actually validate how well it's doing based off of GPT, but then you have your own your model to run. Okay, I'm gonna go. See you later. Thanks for hanging out. ChatGPT was correct when it said Skyrush, which is the top roller coaster on the site you were referring. See number 1, it's Skyrush. Yeah, but I asked it the fastest. What's the fastest? This just says it's the best roller coaster, but it says it goes at 75 miles per hour. Phantom's Revenge, it's ranking as second, but it goes 85 miles per hour, which is faster, right? Right? Am I crazy here? So it's almost like it found the most popular one, but it didn't answer my question, which is the fastest. Got it. Yeah. But it's cool that you could take this, run it offline, and honestly, like thinking about that, the ChatGPT came out early this year, and now there are already open source solutions that are like comparable to it. There is no moat. Like the open source community is coming for you, and it's going to be fun to see what happens. Anyways, with this whole LLM Studio, I would like to, maybe on a later stream or maybe in a video that I create for YouTube, use this. Let's close these, close this. Use some of these data sets that you linked me to, this LLM Data Hub. Awesome data sets for LLM trading. And actually train a model and see how well it works. The other nice thing about this too is when you're running these experiments, you actually can chat with the chat bot that you're training as it's training. So you can see if it answers your questions more or less like you were expecting it to. Yeah. All right. So what did we learn tonight? We learned about the base models, fine tuning of LLM models. Basically, I've explained everything I know so far. We're going to keep learning. I'm going to keep going. I would like to try out these alternatives like local GPT. to see if it's pretty similar or what maybe that H2O could do better to pick up on what it's doing better. But I don't think these have like the same type of user interface where you can link it easily with the files. I think you have to write more code when doing this. But all these you can kind of change the backend that you're using. So I think GPT-4 is the best. Orca is very close. Which open source model would you bet on against? Yeah, so far nothing's really matching what GPT-4 can do. Most of the open source models are trying to compete with GPT 3.5. Why did I pin this? But there's time. There's always time to catch up. And also it's open. Like you can run it locally, you can run it offline, you can fine tune it for whatever you want your business needs or whatever. Which makes it cool. Any other examples we could maybe try here? No, I think we should just end it there. I wish my chat wasn't all messed up. Sorry YouTube, I haven't been able to check your chat this whole time. Let's see what you guys are saying. GPT-4 is just insane. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Do you look at the YouTube comments? Not until now, Mr. M. Sorry. Do I have Slack or Discord? Oh yeah, let's promote all that. So if I do Discord here, it will give me the link, which I will also put into YouTube. You can also check me out on YouTube if you haven't already. It's YouTube Rob Mulla. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you probably already know that. And yeah, we've also done a lot of cool things like ran Kaggle competitions. Our community has done a bunch of different community competitions where we've actually created our own machine learning models to see who is best on in different. Oh wait, they linked the solutions? This is legit. I didn't know that happened. But it's very cool. So definitely join our community if you haven't already. What else? You can follow me on Twitter. Now I'm just rambling. I've been rambling the whole time, so this is par for the course. All right, thanks guys. I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Do you think there's anyone we could raid on Twitch? Let's go over to Twitch. See who's streaming. Chrissy Codes. Let's give her a raid. Keep up the excitement. And I will see you guys next time. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you all soon.